The Los Angeles Lakers just lost a game to the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler, which now gives them a record of 2-8 in their last 10 games and gives them an overall record on the season of 17-18, putting them one game below 500. The Lakers are kind of a disaster right now. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. I also want to address something right off of the top because it seems like I confused a lot of you guys in the last episode. For the record, Rudy is going nowhere. Rudy is just simply going to be putting his efforts onto the main channel exclusively. We both looked at the situation and decided that for the betterment of the production over on that channel, that if we didn't have his time split between those two, it would be for the better. So we're going to have a new editor and Rudy's just in the process of training him. This video is also going to be edited by Rudy, so hopefully that change will be happening very, very soon. This could be the last one very well that is edited by Rudy, but believe me, he's always going to be a big part of this. I don't think that I could do this job without him at this point, so don't concern yourself with that. Rudy ain't going nowhere, but he won't be editing the videos here, so sorry about that. With that said, let's talk about the subject of today's video, which is the Lakers, a little bit of the Miami Heat as well. I want to talk about all-star voting, and then I also want to check in on that quickly RJ Barrett and OG trade once more, just because it really fascinates me. So first on the docket, let's just go ahead and talk about the Heat so we can hold off the Lakers talk off for a little bit. This was a really impressive win from them, and overall the Heat have been really impressive this season. They started off rather poorly, but at this point they are now the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They don't have much separation between them and the Indiana Pacers, but I think as the season goes along, we're going to get that separation more and more. And they managed to win this game without Jimmy Butler, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that their rookie Jaime Jaquez Jr. plays pretty similar to Jimmy Butler, and you really notice those similarities without Jimmy there, because he got to be in more of the on-ball creator role, which he's definitely flashed quite a bit. I believe he's only averaging like 3 assists on the season, but he got 8 assists in this game, which is an aspect of Jimmy Butler's game that really helped him unlock being like able to be in that superstar tier, is that on top of being a very capable scorer, also a very capable passer. They kind of operate in similar ways. They kind of move in a similar pace. They're both pretty big-bodied forwards. I really love Jaquez's game. He's probably my favorite rookie this year, and that's saying a lot given that we have Chet and Wemby in this year's rookie class. So he was really huge in this one, but really everybody was good for the Heat in this one, other than the guys who got 40 seconds of garbage time in the end. For the 8 players that were actually rotational in this one, all 8 of them scored in the double digits, and all 8 of them were positive in the plus minus. I will say that both Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson kind of emptied the clip in this one and didn't really hit all those shots. One problem that exists with Tyler Hero just as a lead scoring option, which he operated as for most of this game, is he did score the most points and take the most shots. The only real significant problem with him is that he's just not someone who gets super high percentage shots. Like, he's really just a super jump shot oriented player. If he's not taking a mid-range shot or a 3, usually it's even a floater. Avoids contact, doesn't really slash all that well, and especially does not get to the free throw line. That's a cool player to have as like your third guy, but you know, operating as the lead shot creating option was a little bit messy at points in this game. He did start to go off towards the end of the second quarter, but pretty much for the rest of the game was more of a negative than anything else. And Duncan Robinson, this one was more just missing open shots because he was getting the looks. And honestly, as even though the Heat lost this or won this game by 14 points, it really felt like it could have been significantly more because of how many open threes Duncan Robinson ended up missing. So this could have actually been worse for the Lakers than it already actually was. I also want to point out Kevin Love, 14 rebounds. That's some vintage Kevin Love shit right there, especially because he did it in less than 30 minutes. And the other big standout here for the Miami Heat is Nikola Jovic, who started and played 28 minutes and scored 15 points, grabbed 8 rebounds, and was relatively efficient doing it. There were like 2 or 3 floaters that he took in this game that I felt were pretty questionable shots, but That's pretty much the only thing he did bad. Like, otherwise, he was in the right place at the right time more often than not, making the right reads, making the right plays, attacking at the right time, playing solid enough defense. And really, you can describe that for pretty much every player that was in the rotation in this game for Miami, is like, all of these guys are like capable of setting each other up. All of them are capable of play finishing super strong. Just looking down this list, we have Kevin Love with 3 assists, Kyle Lowry with 6, Tyler Hero with 4, Bam with 5, and Nahami with 8. That's a pretty good assist distribution. There's like not like some dominant heliocentric team thing. It was a very team-oriented play style that really leaned on all of their strengths and complemented their strengths in a way that elevated this team far beyond its talent. And you know, it's not necessarily a new thing to say that about the Miami Heat, that their ability exceeded their talent. That's kind of the thing that they're known for, but I was still super impressed by it nonetheless. And I straight up refuse to dismiss the Heat as a threat until that coffin is really buried, like with nails in it. Otherwise, I am always going to believe that Eric Spoelstra can just pull something out of his ass and make an excellent basketball team, because, you know, Kevin Love, Kyle Lowry, mostly washed at this point. Josh Richardson's a fine role player. And then you got Duncan, Tyler, Bam, and a rookie, Nikola Jovic, who's barely played in the NBA. And yet, with this roster, they absolutely cooked a team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis on it. Now, why is that? What exactly is going wrong for the Lakers? Well, it's Darvin Ham, but we'll talk about other things. So, first of all, this was not a good game from LeBron, at least in terms of scoring the ball. He also had the worst plus minus on the entire team, 12 points on 6 for 18 shooting. Austin Reeves actually had a really excellent performance in this one, although his role, and really the role of shot creation in general and what that looks like for the Lakers, is a big area of concern. But with that said, I also want to point out that there were some players missing. There was no Rui, there was no D'Lo, and there was no Gabe Vincent. I believe Gabe's been out for a decent stretch of time, but nevertheless, still a mostly at its strength roster here. I don't think that D'Lo and Rui is enough of a loss to really justify this game or any of the games that they've been losing recently. LeBron has been taken off of his minutes restriction and asked to do even more, which I think is just a dumb decision, because one, it's clearly not resulting in them winning. So it's not like it's just, well, LeBron's just going to carry us for a little bit again, because we've talked about this time and time again with LeBron pretty much ever since they won that title, of them trying to stretch him too thin, asking him to do too much at this stage of his career. And they did exactly that in this game. They've been doing exactly that lately, and it's not like it's been resulting in much other than L's. Another big thing, really the biggest thing that's a problem with this team, is the three-point shooting. In this game, they shot 4 for 30 from outside. 4 for 30. 33s isn't even a lot in the modern NBA. That's kind of the minimum at this point, and they only hit 4 of those things. That's 13%, in case you were not aware. And that's just absolutely pitiful. If there's any positive to take away here, Max Christie looked good in this game, and he has looked good in games recently for the Lakers, so there's some positive to take away there. But otherwise, I don't love the construction of this roster, and already with the construction not being great, the coaching is putting all of these pieces that need to be specifically put in these certain contexts, bundling them all up and just throwing them at the wall and hoping that that's actually going to result in a winning basketball team, and it's fucking not. I think the theory that the Lakers are going with is they're trying to be like, LeBron and AD can do the offense, and then we're just going to put defensive players out there with them. But one, I mean, it's not working. So that's just off of the top. It's just straight up not working. There's nothing else to say further, but I will say stuff further regardless. It's not like it's resulting in some super dominant defense. So it's not like you're just trading in being a mid offense for being a good defense. You're still not a very good defense, and you're definitely not a good offense in this context. Cam Reddish can't be starting. That's got to end, okay? The dude is shooting below 30% from 3 on the season. I don't care if he is playing peak Kawhi Leonard level defense. It's still not worth him being out there and being a complete non-factor from outside, which makes life more difficult for everybody else on the floor. Having Anthony Davis out there, he's obviously a non-factor from outside. You don't want to have 2 of those on the floor at the same time in the modern NBA. And Cam Reddish is very much one of those. Jared Vanderbilt is very much one of those. So actually playing them just ultimately comes as a detriment to your team. And it's not a worthwhile trade-off. It just absolutely is not worth that. And then in terms of the offensive alternative, you go with the more offensive-minded lineup for the Lakers. I still have an issue with it, which is that you have your shot creation and your playmaking kind of by committee. Obviously, when things are in their biggest moments and when you're trying to be the best version of this Lakers team, LeBron is going to be the one who is doing those things. However, this year he's adopted a smaller role and a much more off-ball role. More catch and shoots, more backdoor cuts, more things of that nature. And as a result, that ends up causing the ball to be in the hands of players that are not as talented as LeBron James. Whether it be Austin Reeves, whether it be D'Angelo Russell, whether it be Gabe Vincent, maybe even Rui Hachimura from time to time, whatever it may be, these guys are not like elite enough at shot creation. And I think that's an area in the NBA that you need to be elite at to be super successful. And doing that role specifically is kind of like a by committee thing. Like on this possession, D'Lo will be the shot creator. On this possession, Austin Reeves will be the shot creator. I just don't think it works. I think it's passable, but you want better than passable, right? Passable is not going to get the job done at the end of the day. Austin Reeves was good in this game. He had 24, 5, and 8. Really efficient as well doing that. And actually, of all the guys to play 30 plus minutes, he easily has the best plus minus. But I just don't think that job, I don't think he's good enough to do it at the level they need him to be able to do it. And that's not a knock on Austin Reeves. It's just, he's just not on that level. Maybe he will be in a year or two, a couple of years, maybe. I don't quite see it to that extent. I know there are a lot of people who are super hyped on the potential of Austin. I think there's a lot of people have weirdly super significant opinions on him when I just don't know if he's the type of player that warrants it. But I guess that's just what happens when a player is on the Lakers and a player is a teammate of LeBron James. But yeah, I do think that the construction of the roster is weird. There are ways to make it better with the rotation though, and Darvin Ham's rotations fucking suck. They are terrible, and the one thing that Darvin Ham was apparently good at from the onset, the thing that we heard time and time again, was that he just has a good relationship with the players. You know, the players like him, they like working with him, they respect him. He has a good hold of the locker room. Apparently that hold is slipping. So if the hold of the locker room was the entire pitch we got for Darvin Ham as a head coach, and he doesn't even have that anymore, it sounds like he shouldn't be employed. If this team just simply had Frank Vogel like they did, they would be a significantly better team. I feel quite confident in that. Their defense would be better than it is because it should be better than it is. Offensively, I think it'd be better because there'd be more three-point shooting out there. Even though Frank Vogel's not like a genius offensive head coach, he's more of a defensive-minded guy, you would still have at least the bare minimum understanding that you cannot have a below 30% three-point shooting wing out there as your starter next to LeBron and AD. That's just silly. So yeah, that's a huge problem for them. I think they need to fire their head coach. Hopefully their new head coach can, mix up the rotations to make sure that these talents are actually complementing each other more. But I also feel like you could definitely stand to make a trade. Now, I don't think that trade is Zach LaVine because, as I mentioned, I kind of want that lead shot creating option, and I don't think you want that lead creating option to be a player who can't fucking pass. So that's not really going to work. You can try it, and I think it might make them better. But in terms of like elevating this team to being a contender tier team, which is what we expected them to be, given that they made the conference finals last year on short notice at that, Yeah, no, this team's been fucking disappointing as hell, and I don't know how easily they're going to turn it around. It's kind of disappointing because LeBron is still able to give quite a bit, and I would like to be able to see him compete for a championship with the years that he has left, but it doesn't look like it's happening here, at least not anytime in the near future. One thing I do want to highlight, just because I love dunking on this guy, George motherfucking Karl is an idiot. I have always disliked this man. If you don't know, he is a former NBA coach. I believe even won Coach of the Year at one point. He coached the Nuggets. He coached the Sonics. He coached the Kings. He coached the Sonics in the finals and famously didn't put Gary Payton on Michael Jordan until Game 4 after they were down 0-3, instead putting Hersey Hawkins on him, who is a 6'2" shooting guard who was an offensive-minded player with no real defensive skill. So that's the type of brilliant basketball mind we're talking about. But he tweeted, maybe it's not a Darvin Ham problem in Laker Town, with a photo of Anthony Davis. Just for the record, Anthony Davis in this game, 29 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 5 blocks. What the fuck are you talking about? I understand, and this is something that's always existed around NBA discourse, I understand that the star player is going to get a lot of the focus, therefore that star player is going to get a lot of the criticism, but if you're looking at this Lakers roster and the first thing you're trying to identify as a problem is their best player, who's a DPOY candidate on top of being a super efficient and a very good on a general night-to-night basis scorer, if inconsistent, but still averaging very good numbers, that's just silly, man. Anthony Davis is not the problem. He's just not. LeBron's not. I think LeBron's at a stage in his career, he's old enough where we can just say, I'm not really going to blame him for much. I'm mostly just going to take away the positive that happens because the dude's 39 now and anything that he's giving you is absurd. So I'll just take the positive that you get. So yeah, I don't love that angle of criticism. I don't think it's a great way of looking at basketball, and I don't think it's a fair way. Like, that's just not the problem. It's just not. There's no other way to put it. You're just incorrect. Anyways, I talked about the Lakers for so much longer than I expected to. So just for the sake of this video not being overly long, I'm not going to take as long on these other subjects as I wanted to. But let's quickly go over the All-Star voting that is occurring here. Why did I say it like that? That was so weird. Just say the All-Star voting, Jacob. Anyways, the things that stand out to me, I think it's mostly normal. I'm surprised that Şengün has as many votes as he does. Don't get me wrong, he's very much worthy of these because he's been having a fantastic season. I know I haven't talked about the Rockets all that much, mostly because they're just a weird, I don't know how to feel about them in general as a basketball team, because it's such a weird mix of players at different stages of their careers. But he's definitely deserving of that voting. I would just personally, I know I saw some people in the last video when I talked about Chet being an all-star saying that Şengün should be an all-star over him. I personally disagree. I think they're fairly close in terms of actual talent, but I just think that Chet is contributing to the winning just a little bit more. Obviously, that's because he has a better team, so if you want to use that argument, go for it. But just historically speaking, how all-star voting tends to go, all-stars are generally selected. It's those top teams and their best players, and then if you're an okay to not great to decent NBA team, you can get one all-star. And if Houston is going to get an all-star, it absolutely should be Şengün, but I don't think he's going to make it, more likely than not this year. I think it could very much be in the cards for him in the near future, though. I'm surprised Cat got as many votes as he did, because Cat's just not the most popular player in the world. Overall, going to the East front court, Mikal Bridges is a little bit higher than I would have guessed. What's interesting is the Celtics have 5 fucking players in the voting. They have Kristaps and Jason and Jalen in the front court, and you have Derek White and Drew Holiday getting votes in the back court. And honestly, other than Drew Holiday, I think all of those are apt. I don't think Drew has played like an all-star this year for sure. And I do find it fun that Derek White actually got in there. It seems like JJ Redick's propaganda has worked to some degree. Jalen Brunson is lower than I would have expected, especially after all those piss baby New York fans lost their shit over Becky Hammon saying something that's basically objectively correct about Jalen Brunson. But that didn't result in much. I didn't know Kyle Kuzma got this many votes. That also surprises me. Anthony Edwards kind of low in the voting. I would have expected more for him. The most egregious ones though in this entire list has to be Klay Thompson and Austin Reeves, both getting over 100,000 votes. Klay Thompson nearly at 200,000. Like, the fact that he's got more votes than like a Desmond Bane who's averaging 25, 5 and 5, for example, that's dumb. That's stupid. But NBA fans are what they are, and they're gonna vote on dumb shit and like the past. But like, you're very much living in the past if you're voting for Klay Thompson to be an all-star. But yeah, I don't have too many problems with this. I generally don't get bent out of shape about all-star voting in general unless some truly absurd shit happens. And I don't think there's anything on here that is too off of the wall. I think things are mostly as they should be. Last, I want to talk about the RJ quickly OG trade real quick, just to talk about the game twos that every party had here. RJ Barrett had a more standard RJ Barrett game, which is to say he scored an inefficient, like, I think 16 points. And, you know, not as good as the first game. Hopefully that's not a sign of a downward trend. I think it's just the second game. I'm not too concerned about it. But Emmanuel Quickley had a really, really good game. He had like 26 points, hit 5 3-pointers, I think 5 assists as well. Looked really good offensively, really consistent. And just like, you know, I expected Quickley to kind of make more of like a star tier ascension in Toronto. But I really feel like he's just gonna hit the ground running and be there pretty early. And what that actually means for Toronto and what direction they take their franchise from here, I don't know. But at the very least, it's something to be excited about, which I know it's basically what I said last time, but you know, it's been one game difference, so why would I change my take? OG Anunoby, I watched the Bulls versus Knicks game. Kobe White finally had a good game again. He's been kind of shit lately, so it was nice to see that his run wasn't just some fluke that was coming back down to earth. Although I do think people have taken the Kobe White stuff a little bit too far, but that always happens when a young player is exciting. What else? Oh yeah, OG had like 11 points, hit his shots, played good defense. That's what you expect. The Knicks got another win. Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson were awesome again in these games. I really do think this trade is going to be a win-win. I talked about the Lakers more than I expected, so sorry how long this video is, but that is it. Goodbye.